So you mentioned a little while back that the Roosevelts were at the homestead at this point.
Yes,
in time.
I waited on Franklin D. And I waited on his brothers. I waited on the Fords. The Anheuser-Busch, the Beer people.
Tell me some of your recollections or your impressions of the Roosevelts. What kind of man was he?
The most perfect man at anything he attempted to do you ever seen. He ate with grace.
Mm-hmm.
He stooped with grace. He did everything graceful, the most graceful individual and gentleman, educated, scholar.
Okay. So he really made a strong
A
impression
perfect
on you.
man, you'd call him. Then you would have a perfect bunch of fools, like you have everywhere.
Right.
You don't have perfection.
How about his wife, Eleanor Roosevelt? Did you ever meet his wife?
Ugliest woman you ever seen in your life, but pretty. That's right. They didn't come any more ugly than Miss Roosevelt, but she's the sweetest woman you ever seen in your life. It was a pleasure to say good morning to her, to talk to her, and hear her whisper to you with dignity, with honor, and with pride. Typical a lady.
So a lot of these folks that you met at the homestead later helped you with your education. Mrs. A.M. Barnes, she was one.
Miss
Yes?
A.M. Barnes was a millionaire, an unusual lady. She schooled me. Or gave me most of my schooling. And, of course, I met the Rockefellers, the Fords, the Anheuser-Busch. I mean, I knew all those people. Because I worked there from the time I was 13 till I was 27, every day, every summer.
Did you share with Mrs. Barnes that you wanted to go to the University of Pennsylvania Veterinary School?
Mrs. Barnes made it possible for me to matriculate at the University of Pennsylvania. And every month, during my 4 years there, she would call up to see how I was getting along. Not only Mrs. Barnes, but Judge McDevitt, one of the hardest judges that ever lived in life. Give you 100 years and say he's sorry he couldn't give you any more.
So what, at the end of the summer, would they write you a check or would they send it to you at school? How did you keep up with them?
No, I wouldn't let, I got them by the tails and wouldn't turn them loose until the 4 years ended, 8 years. I wrote them Christmas cards. I wrote them Thanksgiving cards. I sent them cards all during the year. A postcard just saying, the bellboy is just thinking about you and the day and your kindness.
And they would write back to you?
$15 or $20.
Okay. You were also working on peanut oil therapy.
I worked with Dr. Carver on the peanut oil and at the hospital.
What was he like?
A very angelic type of man, just like an angel. Beautiful to talk to, beautiful to know, beautiful to understand. I worked with Dr. Carl for about 5 years, off and on peanut oil experiment with animals and with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you had a close working relationship.
I enjoyed working with him.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn from him?
Well, an art of communication, an art of gentleness, an art of understanding, an art of being human with everybody. Because Carver had 5 times as many white people to work with than black. Experiment. For some reason, it seemed to have more rheumatic fever and pains and whatnot.
And how did you end up working with him?
Well, using the peanut oil, it started off on white rats and guinea pigs. by tying the muscles off.
Okay.
And then the muscles begin to atrophy and get smaller. Then after they got smaller, I'd go back and remove the pressure and begin to use peanut oil to see whether or not I could bring them back to normal, the muscles.
Were you thinking about polio?
Polio.
Okay.
But I found out after 4 months that it wouldn't help polio because polio involved the nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I could get to the muscles, but not to the nerves. But then I started using peanut oil on the nerves, but it didn't work.
Okay.
It would work for a while, but sooner or later it would set up a lot of abscesses and boils, so I stopped that.
And this work with Carver, was this before or after you founded the veterinary school?
He was there.
He was there. Okay.
Oh, I mean, Humphrey.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Humphrey came by to speak, but I had met him before, and they had arranged this place where we were going to have the big meeting for him and all the people to go. But instead, we went to a smaller place, and the people came there.
How did you meet him? How did the two of you come
Well, I
into
met Humphrey back years ago. I think when he was a governor, I think of New York or something. That's when I met Humphrey. I knew Roosevelt. I knew all those people. I waited on them as a bellboy in Hot Springs, Virginia. I knew Franklin D. very well. Wonderful man, godson man. I knew the Fords, the Rockefellers. I knew all those people.
And Humphrey helped you when you were having some difficulties getting housing.
Housing.
What did he do?
Wrote to the people of the housing and told them he was going to cut off the money for the state, the whole state, unless they found what I wanted.
And did it work?
Worked. I worked on the richest people. I worked on the Cudahy's, Rockefellers, the Fords, the Anheuser-Busch, the Marshall Fields. People of class, people that got money. Some of them that didn't have class went where they could get class or paid for class.
Mm-hmm.
I remember people in Rockefeller's families, older people, went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
Get people trained for little things. I know because I've seen it. I worked from the time I was 13 years old until I got through university at 27. Mm-hmm. And I could see a hell of a lot in those summers that I worked in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I saw how the white people dressed every night. They were dressed in the full dresses and the tuxedos to go to eat. You had dining rooms for children, dining room for certain groups of children, dining rooms for them. They had culture, they had class.
So you learned a lot about life in those years.
I learned about the man's life. I knew about the man's life. I know how to do it. Had all kinds of good luck with the world.